Well, hello and welcome to my attempt at a particle cannon submarine and from the depths. Now, this is going to be my first ever build of a submarine I have ever done. Don't know why I would decide to do a particle cannon for from the depths, but I've seen some stuff where they would just be absolutely bonkers. Like you like definitely could easily just whip a ship like all the way down the line. So figured out trying to see whether or not you can make a submarine out of it. Right now I'm just trying to get this hull working together. Don't really think I'm gonna keep this design going, to be honest. But it would help me at least get the particle cannon set up. If it looks a little sped up, that's because it is. This is basically a post commentary over what I've done. Trying. Eek. Now, when it comes to this whole submarine, why I decided to do it was that me and a friend found this thing on Steam called a ship generator, and we've been having a lot of fun on it. Might do a recording of that later on. And this is what one of those and this is what that ship generator gave me an idea for. Kind of re-sparked a certain fascination for particle cannons I had when I first started playing this game. As you can tell, I am by no means an expert as to how I build stuff and all that. In fact, this is, I don't know if I already said this, but it's actually the first time I've ever designed a submarine before. And, well, at least the first ever working submarine I've ever built before. The other ones have always just kind of went to, why isn't this working? It should be working, and done. But this one I decided to stick to through the end. Now right here I got the basic hull. Right now I'm building the bridge that I'm going to have the AI stored into. Figured I'd try something a little bit different. As you can see, the basic shape is coming along now. Right now right now I'm about to start putting in the AI. Sorry for what happens here, but for some reason the video and editing just got weird, so hopefully that'll get fixed later on as I get better at making these videos. Putting on some plug and play and some behavioral stuff. Don't know if I remember right, I did not end up keeping this hull because it was too small. I remember learning about some submarines that were actually cruisers, and I always had this kind of cool fascination with them, like a submarine that's a cruiser, battleships that are capable of submersion, capable to submerge underneath the water and just resurface. Might actually try and do something like that, where it's actually just like a normal battleship, but it's able to submerge, launch torpedoes and all that. Actually, that sounds really cool. I might actually try and do that. But as you can see here, I ended up having trouble, not realizing that mirror mode was what was messing me up here. Although I kind of find it interesting how I was able to do that without any issue, but whatever. Eventually, though, I ended up catching up. But I just love the certain tactical advantage of just having your entire fleet being able to submerge and just completely circumvent the other the enemy fleet whatsoever entirely, and just basically leave them behind. And in the this is basically going to be one of the ships I end up going with for the whole submersible fleet. Next up's going to be like a destroyer that can just submerge and just get out. That actually would be kind of interesting, because destroyers already have like torpedo launchers on the top of them. But I wonder the advantage a submarine would have if it actually had torpedo launchers on top of it. Like, not only in the hull, but actually has like turrets on the top that it can launch torpedoes from. Like that actually might be quite advantageous. Right now, as you can see, I'm just copying in the bits needed to get the particle cannon to work. I think I already just did it, but there was a bit where it didn't pace correctly. You're gonna see that later on, where where one of the U-turn bits for the particle cannon didn't pace correctly, and I didn't see that right. But that's gonna end up like having me go through it later on. I do kind of wonder. The only problem I have with particle cannons, though, is that if you really want a powerful one, you have to have like a lot of batteries, and eventually you're gonna get so many batteries in it that you're gonna need like a huge amount of power generation if you ever want to see it ever come back quick enough for you to fire again. That could just be me not being really all that experienced when it comes to particle cannons, but I don't know. If you have any explanation, I would love to hear it. Right now, this is where I'm going to put. Now, for when I'm submerged, this is where I'm going to be using this. I'm going to be putting a sonar up here and some laser rangefinders, so that the AI can actually like basically aim the guns correctly. Because from what I've seen, laser rangefinders seem to be the absolute best for, well, like to give a namesake, range finding. Like for if you want your most accurate level of firing mode, it would be laser rangefinders, unless you're sticking with a certain theme. And I do a lot of pasting so that just to speed up some certain stuff. You can see that right. Yeah, I think right now. Yep. Now, going into this, I really didn't know what I was gonna go for when it came to a submarine hull. Like, I had like this basic idea in mind for like this modern, like looking like round sub. Eventually, I find out that the hull I currently have is like way too narrow, and I ended up making it wider later on. Now this whole compartment right here ends up being taken entirely up by batteries and a steam power generator. Because as far as I know, steam power is actually like the best way to recharge batteries, at least really effectively. Now the reason why I ended up changing the hull is because of right here. I did not realize going into this that particle cannons in the game are buoyant. So later so I try to actually make the front end like heavier by adding like heavy armor into to the nose, which later on I'll end up doing here. Quick test fire of the particle cannon. To see if it works. Now, in the middle of this, I did not know if particle cannons could actually work underwater. So I was kind of like gambling on this whole ship even working. Luckily, I find out that it does. Just trying to see if I can get a good effective steam generator going on. From what I've seen though, if you have more than connector what's the word, the massive steam generators with multiple connectors on it, it looks like that more steam gets shoved into the pipes. Don't know if that's for sure, but at least that's what I've noticed. So that's why you saw me putting down like so many connectors for the pipes. Then right there, you just saw me just basically shove it up to maximum generation without really any regard for fuel efficiency. Actually, I don't even know how long this thing could actually keep going for, with how little material storage I've given it. Probably not for long. In all honesty, this is more of a test bed. I might not actually be keeping this. I may actually do another version of this, but with instead of a particle cannon, like a laser thing, that it might actually be more effective using laser guns. Because from what I've seen with what people have done with lasers, they can actually be really just... Yeah, they can just literally delete your face, so... Or if you're me, just instantly destroy any ship you have. By just taking out that pesky AI. Quick little test here to see if everything's working. As I end up getting back to the rest of the ship. I originally tried going with ballast tanks for how to get this to work, but I just did not know how to make that work, so I eventually ended up just using propellers in order to control the depth and all that, but it just looks so junky to me, so I might try and re-tackle doing ballasts again, although from what I've seen on the community, it usually is easier to do propellers. So I don't know, I might try and do something where it at least looks more natural like a regular submarine would. Because right now, this doesn't really look all that bad, except just ignore the fact that there's no really rear section of the sub. Now right here, I'm trying to get the thing trying to submerge going, why isn't it submerging? It should be just fine. Still not realizing that the particle cannon has buoyancy. Don't know why I didn't notice that when earlier you see the nose literally being the only thing that's floating, but who cares? Right now, this is like me trying to like balance out the generation, because I remember that's kind of more complicated to get the ballast thing to work when you have like multiple pumps. Like you need to set up I think you have to set up PIDs for, actually, is that what they're called? Or whatever. And for it to work properly, just doesn't work really, could not get it to work for the life of me here. Constantly just going back and forth trying to figure out why it's not going. I eventually find out that on the AI mainframe itself, the actual altitude actually had to be set, and I didn't realize that. Although now knowing this, I kind of feel embarrassed to say. generally when I played From the Depths, it was always just like, oh, I'll just build this like massive ship, but just give up like halfway through, because they just turned out to be like so huge and expensive. But this, for some reason, I just wanted to stick with to try and actually like try something different. Right now, I'm just trying to look through the whole thing, figure out what might actually be involved for the PIDs, for what allows it to actually, do its thing. This ends up going on for quite a while. Basically, I just kept trying to flip sliders back and forth, trying to see what worked and what didn't. For it not to. As for this actually ended up taking me like a couple of days to make, just because I would just go on. I was just basically building this in my pastime, just trying to see if it would even work. Wasn't even really sure I was gonna like upload this or not. Although I do think I'm gonna keep at the whole trying to make a more practical submersible submarine. More I think about it, I might just ditch the entire particle cannon altogether, because it's just way too bulky and requires so much power in order for it to be effective. Like I was trying to, I made a particle cannon that could literally, there's like this like Yamato ship that somebody built in the workshop, and I pasted it in, and it cleaved a hole from the bow all the way to the stern, and you could just see this massive hole going all the way down it, and it just destroyed the ship. And I was like trying to think, oh well, the particle cannons could do that. What if you had a submarine, and like it would instantly be better than any torpedo you could build? But I forgot that how many batteries I had to shove on the thing in order for me to even have that ability. Like the particle cannon itself was literally massive. And because of the massive thing, I could not shove enough batteries on there for it to have enough to even, like, not be shoved all the way down to 0. So the thing, for all I know, the thing wasn't even firing at its absolute maximum. As for the fleet idea, I actually am starting to like the idea of it more. Just because of how like scummy that could be in a full-blown like fleet-on-fleet battle. Like, I mean, could you imagine if like World War II, the Japanese were like fighting in America, and the Japanese are trying to look for the American ships, and only for the American ships to like just submerge underneath the water and just pop up right in the middle of their whole fleet and just sink it. Just like out of nowhere, Missouri-class battleship just surface in between like the freaking like free of the Japanese carriers. I bet that would have been a whole different story on that engagement. But anyway, I'm kind of losing track here. Now right here is when I tried doing the submersible. They're trying to get the nose to be more heavier to counteract the buoyancy of the particle cannon, only for it to end up basically sinking all the way to the bottom of the ocean because I still have the ballast tanks turned off from when I was messing with that earlier. Now, I'm trying putting simple weapons on it, just so it could have like at least somewhat effective secondary armament that didn't take up any room whatsoever, because for as big as this thing was, I was strapped for room just because of the freaking particle cannon alone. right now trying to set up the AI so that everything is set up. I also try to make sure that the art, like the little bulges covering the weapon, the AI that controls the weapon look more uniform with the ship, like it's meant to be there. It actually ended up looking out pretty well. Although next time I might just do like a normal sub with like cruise missiles I can launch out the top. I think that would actually would be better as of a ship. Sorry again if the whole quality here isn't exactly the best. Yeah, what do you expect for the first video ever? Right now, just trying to figure out what else to do to try and get this to work. That's when I find out that the pump was off, which ended up fixing that problem. But as you can see, it's still not nose heavy enough, and I eventually end up having to move the center mass more towards the front of the ship. And that's when that just proves me wrong. That's the whole rear end was what left it up instead of the front. Yeah. But later on, that's what ended up happening. And right here is when I start changing the entire shape of the hull, just because it just was not able to work out whatsoever. Which actually ended up working in my favor because it just made the hull look so much better later on, giving me a much more room than I originally had. One thing I actually really liked when I was expanding the hull, and you will later see, is that right here when I start like cleaving out the sides of the sub, you actually get like this perfect cutaway of like what it would have normally looked like was like all the decks. Right here. Just being able to see all the way, see all the layers and decks right there, even though it was like just the one deck. It still looked like really cool. And it eventually ended up like ditching the huge heavy armor sides and is only ending up like doing just like one little chunk right there in the front. Now the reason why I used heavy armor is instead of like lead, instead of the way the front down, is because heavy armor has the same amount of weight as lead, without having like the downside of it being so much weaker than the rest of the ship. So I went with heavy armor so that if it ever got hit, it wouldn't just immediately break apart, while still offering what I needed. I ended up recovering the lead beam underneath that kept the center of mass nice and low into heavy armor, but didn't do the whole thing. But it still at least offers like relatively decent protection. I know the heavy armor is very weak against energy weapons, which I thought was surprising. I mean, you wouldn't think that heavy armor, which is what I would assume to be just like denser steel, would be so like weak against energy weapons, but I guess that's just for like balancing purposes. It's kind of like imagining like what if I did just make a battleship with like just 2,000mm crayons on it that just because later on you'll see that those quad 40mm Beaufort guns that I end up shoving on the top of the thing, literally already giving it the best anti-air capabilities of any sub ever made in the world. But it was actually able to shoot underneath the water with no problem whatsoever. So if you could have like a 2,000mm cram just immediately just shoot out of the water and what's based from what's usually the weakest part of the ship, which is like the belly of it, then I think you would have just an absolute beast of a battleship. Just because of that instant delete button of the crayon. Now, this is what I was talking about right here, is the batteries. This eventually just ends up basically what made up my mind for deciding to like try and do a better version later on instead of just trying to fix this. Is just look at all of that space being taken up by those batteries. And even with all these batteries, my generators couldn't even keep up because there wasn't enough room to add more. Because if I just added more, the thing would just be so large it wouldn't even really be all that effective. In fact, I was so strapped for room that later out you will see me like start putting like the ammunition right next to the steam, like right in between the steam generators, like steam turbines, just because I was that strapped for room. As for the particle cannon, it actually does end up being like really effective, but not as effective as I wanted. So, like, I wanted that just basically point, click, and delete, and just basically just turn around and just huddle back while I wait for the cannon to recharge. Although I don't think you can actually program the AI to do something like that, so I don't know, you might be able to. Might have to look into it. And now right there, that's when I tried to remove into the 90-degree sonar thing on the front, just because I did not like the idea of it being on the top. Just did not think it would be as effective there. So me changing the hull actually worked out for that, because I could just move it down into the middle of it, where it's right underneath the particle cannon. The only thing is that if I don't program the particle cannon correctly, the AI might accidentally shoot off its own freaking eyes, basically. So we'll just say that's a feature rather than a flaw. It's so that if it ever gets into an unadvantageous situation, it could at least make sure you won't have to worry about watching it come in. So it has like at least that going for it. Now, I haven't tried all that much with the transition blocks, but from what I've seen, From the Depths is just not great at this kind of like wide circle type thing, like what was like the hull here. So this actually took a while trying to figure out how to get at least rounded off. I tried covering the particle cannon in glass, only to like both do it but not do it, because I had no idea of whether or not glass can even allow particle cannons to shoot all the way through it. I was basically assuming not. I thought there was a weapon that can shoot through glass without damaging it. I want to say it was lasers, but I don't think particle cannons can do that. Could be wrong. Also could be wrong about the laser thing, but what do I know? As for what it comes to when From the Depths is concerned, I actually really love this game. I have literally not played a single game like it. Because all the other... This game just has so many things going for it that it just makes me love it. Like, I've actually managed to get a friend to buy it just because I told him that this is a game that I do not even mod. Because I just think it has because I already think it's good as it is. Now, right here, I tried armoring, like, covering, like, the hit, like, most of it, so that maybe if I can prevent the water from getting in, it would stop it from, like, being buoyant. Although I eventually realized that it might actually just, instead of doing that, just shoot itself to bits as it's trying to hit whatever's in front of it when the AI tries to target something. I tried to like make it so that if like something was like more above it, that the particle cannon could actually shoot straight up. But I don't think it was able to do that. I don't know. I think particle cannons would be more suited for like a orbital satellite cannon. Because if you can like something in the air, you can just build it up in there and you can just put as many batteries and generators on that thing as you want. And I bet you can just come up like immediately make just the absolute most Death Star looking ship there is. Because particle cannons are really good at that kind of thing. If you can like design one properly, it could actually just destroy anything it sees. Was excellent reliability at the same time. It's just that usually to do something like that, you require a lot of power, like I've been saying. So while granted this ship didn't exactly work out as well as I would hope, it did teach me a lot about how to build subs in the first place that I hope to later on try again with. Right now, I ended up changing the propellers on it from 3 to I believe 7, just so I can just go faster than the 10 meters a second it was doing originally. This is all on the dev version of From the Depths, by the way, so I can just play with the new stuff that they're planning on adding. Man, because I just love those transition blocks to death. And the not the prettiest like rear end, but I got the test done. As you saw right there, that was another cat that, like I said, this took like a lot more time than I wish it would have taken to build this, but first time out. Eventually, I end up trying to plan out how exactly like later you'll see a battle between this thing and I think it was a Barracuda retrofit, and it tore that thing to shreds. Now this is now putting the sonar thing in so it can detect stuff for when it's surfaced, it could still like see what it's doing and find targets. Now the reason why I kept putting like passive sonar on even with the regular sonar was just so that the AI can actually, because active sonar can only like target stuff, but while passive sonar can actually warn you of incoming threats like torpedoes and stuff. So that's why you saw like that's why I kept doing that little thing right there. little bit of decoration on the inside to at least make it look like there could be a crew that could go from front to back to do maintenance, check stuff, and even like run the basic ship. Even though if you already think about it, this ship would be absolutely worthless in a real world circumstance because there's literally nothing to even keep the crew alive. Now this actually ended up fixing the whole buoyancy problem, even though I have no idea how. Like, it didn't fix all of it, but it did fix, like, most of the problems I have. Yeah, once again, the video started lagging. Well, I really don't know what ended up causing that lag, to be honest, because in the game, it was actually, like, running just fine. But in the video, it just... I don't know, it just... Now, that was, like, the underwater test to see if it will even work underwater. From the looks of it, it does. Although you can see it right here, where I actually ended up on, like, the top right there. You just saw where I actually shot off the front of my own ship. Messing with the ballast tanks again, trying to get that thing to even work. Realizing that Now, when I saw those cannon fire underneath the water, that just gave me so many ideas as how he could just be so, like, scummy to, like, other players' creations. Because from what I understand, at least when it comes to the advantages of having subs to begin with, is that when you're underwater, shells just explode on the surface. And shells that do somehow not destroy itself on the surface and sink down and somehow hit your ship, it would normally have lost so much, like, power, it's basically can't do anything anymore. Now right here is when I start doing propellers for the management of depth and steering and all that. Those are currently taking care of pitch, and these huge ones will be taking care of making the ship go up and down. Like, before I had the AI set up, it actually almost ended up making the sub even fly. Which I guess would just be an interesting, like, tactic for a ship to use. All guns are destroyed and all that, just immediately just jumps out of the water and just belly slams the ship that was attacking it. That would be an interesting the predicament for the enemy captain to be in. Or that, or it would just end in absolute abstract misery. It took me so long to figure out what was causing these PIDs to not do their job correctly. Although most likely it was just because I just wasn't using the PIDs even, like, remotely right. Like, I was trying to figure out what input was, like, controlling what. Like, okay, so I was thinking, like, if I put the measure altitude from sea level, and I just tell it to be below this certain depth, and it'll just make sure that it just does that, right? No, the AI does that, not the PIDs, and I did not realize that at the time. My voice is just getting, like, so sore. Once again, looking at what all causes what to make it work. There's just been one slight problem, and that if I were to try and manually, like, control this sub rather than let the AI do it, no matter what control you use, it would instantly always like shove full power to every single propeller on the thing, causing it to either sink to the bottom of the floor, completely roll on its roof, or just go in every which direction, but rather than the one direction you wanted to go, which just caused so many problems. It would lead to one of the many instances as to why I would end up scrapping this. You know, that's... The more I talk about this, the more I'm just not favorable towards this thing at all. But as you can see, I managed to get it to submerge correctly now. One thing I would like to get the sub to do is that it would ride on the surface, and then, like, let's say it finds an enemy, it would immediately start to submerge like an actual submarine. Although nowadays, I guess they're always right out of the dock, instantly submerged. But I don't know. That's just like something I would like it to do. Kind of like more like into World War II way, where subs will be on the surface rather than just expending all their air for the inside. If I actually, I'm pretty sure if I cut the altitude, the minimum altitude at 0, and put the maximum altitude at -100, it might actually have worked if I set the combat altitude down to that same maximum depth. Then that might have actually worked. Now here's where I have the test of the guns on this ship. Originally, when I was spawning that in, I thought that was a boat, so this ended up not exactly testing out what I wanted to do. But it ended up working out. Right in the middle here, you see me like trying to like figure out why the guns aren't on target. And I bet that's because it has sonar. I thought I was gonna try and put radar on it. But then I realized, oh wait, the ship's underwater, so radar wouldn't exactly work. So it's kind of like stuck for, okay, maybe the ship will figure it out. Right here, I'm trying to figure out why the guns aren't firing. Because you can see right there, they're tracking like absolutely perfectly, and that's when I find out that they actually have a reload. Which I did not know. I figured they'll just keep firing until the ammo runs dry, but apparently not the case. And you can just see those AA guns just immediately tearing that thing to shreds. Like, personally, I think that if you want like good AA capabilities, if your ship has like a problem with flyers, just shove a few of those on there, and you won't have a problem with flyers anymore, because those things just tear apart anything unless they're just heavily armored in steel or something. And I don't know about you, but I don't think you're gonna find pretty good flyers that are made out of solid steel. Could be wrong. Haven't really done many flyers either. Like I said, I only ever really done ships in this game. I have tried and dabbled at the tanks they've added. But that was just kind of became a case of seeing what other people have done on the workshop and just kind of just going, I don't want to do it anymore. Everybody's better at me. But I might actually like try and give another shot at it. Now, as I'm trying to figure out why the particle cannon wasn't firing, because I forgot to give it AI control. This is when I noticed that I forgot that I realized that one of the particle cannon bits was not done correctly. And right here, you see me making a room for the. Also checking to make sure I didn't just sink the entire sub there. Making sure that the particle cannon has plenty of room to both shoot upwards and out. and forwards. Because I wasn't really planning this to be able to shoot side to side all that well. All I wanted to do was shoot down, a little bit downwards, and if I can, completely vertical. Now, I immediately ended up finding the, well, actually, I didn't immediately end up finding out. I just cut it out because it was, because I was just not happy with how long it took me to figure out that right there was where the missing piece was, and I go over it not even noticing it. Little cut to where I do notice it. Now, this is where I start testing exactly what the particle cannon is actually capable of doing. And it actually does do pretty well against the Battle Marauder, which is actually what I tested it on. And it could cleave holes all the way through it. But the holes weren't really all that massive. And right here you can see that I need to put something on the particle cannon so that the AI knows not to just immediately start firing every little bit like it does here, because you just see that battery power just immediately disappear. The thing is, I have it overclocked and set on 10 seconds. But yet this feels like it took much longer than 10 seconds. It doesn't fire until I literally change this freaking damage and inaccuracy thing, which immediately made me thought, oh wait, did I just make it fire? But nope, it just took it was just taking its sweet time to do something. Now, there's probably a better way to have done this particle cannon. Maybe I just... Personally, I probably could just take off the overclock, or at least not make it as intense, and just mess with the other sliders, and I probably could end up as a very effective sub. But I feel like this thing's just a dead end, so I'm just gonna try and do something a little bit better. Maybe like the other sub ideas I was talking about. The more I think about it, the more I like the idea of just having an aircraft carrier that's capable of submerging and just escaping the enemy fleet. And I want to try that, but I want something that looks. I want a submarine, but was basically a carrier deck right on top of it, like submarine hull, but this the whole carrier thing right on top. But all in all, I really love what this sub was actually able to do. I have so many complaints for it, but for what ended up being, was it working? It actually worked really well. When it did work. Now, personally, my favorite thing when it comes to particle cannons is impact. Not really for damage wise, but just because when you do have a very beefy particle cannon, it can just send the enemy ship somersaulting just because of the amount of impact force it has. It's kind of just violently shoving the enemy ship, and it's basically the best description I have for when it comes to the how impact on particle cannons work. It's just basically a violent shove. Now, right here, And this is where I put on the propellers for the allow it to turn better, just because the rudders were just looked like they were causing more problems than answers. But as now it actually does do decent damage. It actually takes off massive chunks. But we're getting towards the end of the video here, so I might get us a good send off with one more firing of the main gun, testing out the well, actually a few more fires of the main gun, because you know particle cannons are kind of fun to shoot, and I wanted to see what the other sections really do. I thought the EMP effect was actually really good. Because I didn't realize the EMP effect actually has like a blue shockwave that just travels down the enemy ship. I did not know that. Which I might actually try in another EMP build. Which will actually be my first ever build of an EMP gun. Never really used EMPs. Yeah, when I'm looking at the sliders, if I just edited a few things, I bet I could have this thing like working really well. Now this is right here where I just tried to like try the most amount of like damage in a straight line possible. And as you can see, there was for a little brief second there was a nice massive hole right through the ship. You know what? Maybe I will try to replan this out, maybe trying to come back to it. But I'm definitely gonna try the other ideas for ships first. But as this is like towards the end of the video, I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary, the build of the overall submarine itself. Got any pointers and stuff like that? Feel free to leave in the comments, and ta-ta. Ta-ta, really? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm going to ta-ta. Fine. That's what I'm going with.